morning and welcome to the Black Road podcast. I am Carol Mitchell. I am here tonight with Dr. Jashon Banks, Sr. He's going to tell you all about his crystal stair story. And as you might recall, our crystal stair stories are stories of triumph, stories of trouble, sometimes stories of struggle, but always definitely stories that lead to a successful place in a person's life. And so we're really excited to have him with us tonight. My co-host is not with us. She is off celebrating with her family, her mother's birthday. And so she's taking a little time off. Anjanae, we miss you, of course, and wish you were here. But I'm happy Dr. Banks is with us tonight because he has a very unique background. He has been a police officer. He is a higher ed, an educator, a professor, if you will. He's an entrepreneur and businessman. He's a family man. And so he has all of these different dimensions to his life and roles that he plays. And so tonight we're going to hear a little bit about his journey, how he came to be a police officer, an educator, an entrepreneur, and how he feels about some of the things that are happening right now in the criminal justice space, especially what's happening in our own Pierce County Sheriff's Department. So welcome, Dr. Banks. So very happy to have you here. I might slip up and call you Jashon every now and then, but I also want to acknowledge and give you your props because getting that DR period in front of your name or that PH.D at the end of your name is a triumph, and it takes a lot of hard work. So congratulations on that. So let's start at the beginning. I forgot the fact, I see your Go Army. I totally forgot the fact that you were also in the military. So start a little bit at the beginning. First of all, where are your people from? Let's start with that. Where are you people from? Where are you from? And how did you get to the beautiful United States of Washington?
Okay, I appreciate this opportunity to be a part of this conversation, to be on this platform with this, your phenomenal nonprofit here. And just, even just the thought of me to speak my voice here is just still mind blowing for me. So, we range from Chicago, Illinois. My family was still over there. It was a struggle over there growing up in poverty, a family of 7 of us. I'm number 6 of the 7. No father wasn't present. He decided to leave. And when I was the age of 1, my mother was still pregnant with my younger brother at the time. So I don't have any recollection of him ever being there. So from there, it was tough for my mom, trying to take care of all us, especially boys, at the time. And it was very traumatic in a sense of my mother being alone, but also suffering from her own trauma from her time of growing up in the early 60s with the whole civil rights movement. And she's from Cabrini Green, Chicago, where it's pretty rough for those who know about Cabrini Green. So, a lot of her trauma was on the surface level. So we tend to get a lot of that frustration and anger taken out on us as her children. So it was very toxic. It was a very toxic environment growing up. And, at the time, I didn't understand what poverty was. I just didn't know. I didn't know I was poor. But my question, I always asked my mom why I couldn't have a bike in the summer or why I couldn't get, a pair of shoes when I, asked for it. I didn't understand. And a lot of times she used to take her frustration and anger out on me. Now, I'm not talking just yelling. It's like calling me everything but a child of God.
And she was tired a lot too, I'm sure.
That too. Yes. So dealing with that. And so as years went on, at the age of 12 for myself, one of my older brother was murdered. He was shot and killed.
Oh my God.
In south of Chicago. He was shot and killed. He was only 17 and I was 12. And that's where the real frustration, that's where the anxiety, that's where the bad things start happening. So he was shot and killed in cold blood. And it
Mm.
was rough for my mother, trying to pay for a funeral. And, again, my brother's 17 years old at the time. So from there, after that, it really got bad. So for those who know, the winters in Chicago was extremely cold. And we didn't have a furnace. So no furnace worked. The furnace burnt out. So we had a kerosene heater in the house. So if you hit that thing the wrong way, boom.
Oh my
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. So we had that. And thank God we had a gas stove. I think every Black folk know that, you'll open up the oven and try to warm up the house with the oven,
Hello.
things like that.
Yes. I mean, Black people improvise well. We're very
Yes.
creative. When you have nothing, that saying that necessity is the mother of invention, because when you really
Yes.
need something and you don't have it given to you, you become very creative and resilient.
Yes. And, at the time, we still didn't know what that meant. Um, Hot water heater didn't work. So the hot water heater wasn't working, neither in the house. Many of the sockets in the house didn't work, so you couldn't plug up anything. No cable. Cable was off. I mean, at this time, the VCR was around. We had the huge floor model TV, the heavy wooden one you push on wheels. Yeah. My mom was old school. I think my mom's still stuck in the 70s. Like,
That
that's
was
her
the
mindset.
cabinet. It was
Yeah.
the cabinet.
Yeah. That thing is heavy. You can put stuff on top of it. I mean, that's what we had. And food wise, I mean, food lines, but a lot of times, like, we even eat freezer burnt food, like, because we didn't have anything.
Mm.
So, on top of that, I still got to attend school. So I'm trying to do homework. Sometimes the power is out. So I got to find a light somewhere and try to get homework done in the dark, or even, in the summertime, go out and under the street light and get my homework done just to, try to pass class.
Jashon,
Uh,
you sound like you're describing Ghana or some place where.
that's how I came up. I'm not going to, share, something where, feel like I don't want anybody to feel bad. I know it's people out there going through the same type of thing or even been through it. And it's a struggle, but at that time, I mean, the struggle, it developed something different. Like, as I continue to get older, I said, I don't want to live like this. I
Hmm.
refuse. So getting into high school at the age of 14, I got my workers permit. I started working my first job at McDonald's. I got my first job at 14, and I worked. And from there, I was taking care of myself. My mom kind of like, you're on your own now, because
At
I'm working
14, got
at
buy your own
14.
clothes and tennis
Yep,
shoes at
everything.
14.
Yep. So, working, and I still, at this time, again, I've been playing football my whole life. So football has been that pillar for me. I mean, I started at the age of 5, and now this time in high school, I'm playing high school football, and I'm trying to navigate life now. I'm trying to figure out who I am, what I want to be. So,
Hmm.
me being an athlete, many people know I was an athlete. I tend to have a lot of girls chasing after me, trying to, talk to me, but I use it to my advantage. So what I did was, like, I will talk to older girls who had a car so I could get where I needed to go, such as
Oh,
work, get back forth to school. I had to utilize that to get where I needed to go.
oh, is
Not
that
many of the
the
guys had
only
a car.
advantage of an older woman is she got a
Yeah,
car and can
she
give
was
you a
17,
ride to
18.
McDonald's?
I'm 17. She's 17, 18 with a car. I'm, 14, 15, just trying to navigate life. And that's what I did to get back and forth to practice, to get to work. I mean, to just to be present where it was going on at that time. So after that, during that time, my brother, one of my brothers, over the one that's direct number 5, he was injured. He was ambushed, and he was chopped with a hatchet. Um, Head damage, arm damage. He survived, but he
Oh,
was it was it was a life or death situation. Thank God that the woman seen him and heard him moaning. Otherwise, he would have bled out and passed. But he survived that attack, um, and he fully recovered. No brain injuries or anything. He still had his pains, but he survived it. So imagine getting hit in the head with a hatchet and
oh
trying to
my
fight off
God.
a person. So That happened. That's where, again, mom got a little bit more toxic, kind of angry, frustrated. Because again, my family was gang related. So myself coming up
Oh
in a gang,
no,
so
don't tell me that, because
yeah, we were gang
that's an
related.
automatic disqualifier for a whole lot of things.
It was, and at the time, that was protection for myself, for family, just protection on out there in the
Hmm.
streets. I mean, mom's not home. Mom's working second shift. She's working from 2:30 to maybe 11 o'clock at night. So guess what? We out on the streets. We're just trying to survive. Me, I'm working, trying to work a little job and trying to keep to myself and stay focused. But at the same time, I was still doing my little gang activity too. So I
And you
wasn't the
had to
same.
come and go in the neighborhood. So even getting back and forth from your job when one of your older women wasn't available, I'm sure you had to use your tennis shoes to get back and forth. And it doesn't sound like it was the safest environment for you,
No,
even if you didn't want to be gang
no,
affiliated.
no. It was the only
How
way
else
to
do you
survive.
survive?
That was the way to survive at that time. And again, I know today it's changed a lot for gangs, but uh, especially in different regions. And again, this is the Midwest; it's a little different.
Hmm.
So from there, just pressing on, I continued with football, and
So how did you get to the army though from
oh, I'm gonna get there. I'm gonna get there. That
Chicago?
part. So I had a family. He's a father to me. He's my father figure slash mentor. His name is Alfred J.J. Hollis. He's
Hmm.
still there. He took me under his wing. I mean, I remember at the age of 17, I remember my junior year, I got shot at for the last time. I said, I can't keep doing this. I am tired of getting shot at, and one of these bullets going to hit me. I lost a friend like a year before that, sophomore year. He was hit, and it wasn't nothing I can do for him, but you know, try to save him. But
Did he
that happened.
die in your
Yes, he passed.
presence?
He passed. He passed in the
Oh,
hospital.
oh man. And
So
I think sometimes we understate how traumatic it is, your brother being killed at 17, another brother being hit with a hatchet, a friend of yours dying. That's trauma too. You're
mhm,
holding those losses and that grief. That's in your psyche as well.
mhm,
Even though you may not have been hit by the actual bullet, when
mhm,
you have a loss like that and an injury to your family like that, on top
mhm.
of your mom's, whatever stress and strain she was operating
Mhm.
under, that
Yes,
has to have an effect on a child,
yes. And at that
on a
time,
young man.
yeah, at that time, I didn't diagnose it as that. I'm like, this is normal. That was normal.
Right.
So it's like, I brush it off and keep going, like, and not deal with it, just ignore it. That was how you try to continue to survive. So after that whole incident, like getting shot at, I said, hey, coach, he was coach. He coached me in Pop Warner football. I said, coach, what can I do to get the heck out of this space? Like, I don't want to do this anymore. He said, you know what? Use your athletic ability. Football. I played
Mm,
baseball, but he was like, football is money for you. Like, do it. So from
mm.
there, I mean, while working, save up what money I could to, at this time, again, I mean, Wi-Fi didn't exist at all. It wasn't all that the stuff they have today. So I'm traveling to different colleges throughout the area, Indiana, Illinois, um, to show my skills in football to try to get to college. And I
Mm-hmm.
did that for a while, and um, worked my butt off in the classroom to get a decent GPA. So for those who just don't understand, like high school, I graduated with a 2.68 GPA, and I had an ACT score of a 19. But a lot of kids, I tell them that I took the ACT 3 times just to get that
Mm,
19, and nobody know. I said,
mm-hmm.
yeah, I took it 3 times to get that score. So from there, I got a high enough score. I had a good GPA at the time for NCAA clearinghouse was 2.5 GPA or higher to accept a full ride
Right. I
scholarship.
was going to say you probably needed at least a 2.5 to get a
Yes,
scholarship, right?
yes. So during that time, at all these D1 schools, University of Indiana, University of Michigan State, um, uh, Eastern Illinois was D1AA, Southern Illinois, Carbondale D1AA, Illinois State is D1AA. So like all these D1 schools were looking at me then, but they were looking at me in my senior year, because junior year I was dealing with the coach's son thing. His son was there, so he was taking care of his son, all that stuff.
Oh,
So yeah,
you
so
can't
we dealt
compete
with
with
that.
that. I'm sorry,
Yeah,
blood is thicker than water. And that
yeah. And a lot of kids suffered when that coach was there. He's no longer, he left my going into my senior year. So we got a brand new coach. So I was able to show off what I can do. And I did. And Division II school came in, St. Joe College, showed
all
up.
right.
Head coach showed up to my house. I got a call from JJ Hollis saying, hey, Coach Lou Esposito is going to be there soon. So I did what I can, straighten up the house so it looked decent.
Mama, put a lid on them collard greens.
Yeah, you know what I'm saying? Let's
The...
clean it. Yeah, like they don't know what that's like. So he showed up and with the scholarship in his hand, it was a sheet. I still have my national letter of intent. Showed up. Our mascot was the Pumas. He's like, hey, I want to make you a Puma. So I'm looking at the scholarship. It's like, hey, full ride. Like I'm paying. They paying for everything. I got all the scores. I got everything I need. And from there, my mom walked in. My mom walked in. She sat in a chair right next to me. I said, Mom, I got a full ride. I'm almost in tears. I got a full ride. I did it. My mom sat in the chair and just looked at me like this. So she didn't understand, or she just didn't care. So I signed, yes, I'm a Puma. So after I graduated high school, May of 2007, the next day after graduation, I left. I took off. I went straight over to Indiana to school. My coach, I asked him, can I come early? Because I'm at the point where I was like, I don't want to get shot, killed, anything over the summer being here.
Right. So where they put you up somewhere on campus?
Yes, he got me in a dorm on campus, got me a job. I got a job there. And he knew what I was going through, because he asked me before graduation, he said, I can get you over here early. He knew the environment I was in. So he's like, you need to get out of there. So I left, went off to college. I got to college. In my freshman year, it was rough because I had to assimilate to a whole new culture. I'm coming from a predominantly Black high school with 70, 80% Black to a 90% white college. So I'm trying to learn how to assimilate, but I'm frustrated because I still have the street mentality on my hip. On top of that, I'm dealing with trauma, the loss of, loved ones, trying to, get through this process. And on top of that, like, I don't have any family. I have no one there. It's just me. So when I showed up to my dorm room, I had a book bag and I had a Rubbermaid tote with all my belongings. When I sat it down, I can still picture it in my head. I had a bunk bed. I had nothing in there. I literally had nothing, no sheet, no pillow, no nothing. So I bust my butt that whole summer, saving up everything I can, and bought everything I had from a laptop computer to my, stuff in my room, my little refrigerator. Family member, a good friend of the family, gave me a microwave for my dorm room. I found a TV somewhere on campus. I found a TV, stuck it up there. It was an old TV. I didn't care. It was just something. I didn't have anything.
It wasn't the one with the cabinet, so it was.
No, it wasn't one of them.
Your mama hadn't sent that one up for you, huh?
She couldn't do the typical trunk party. I was on my own. I was on my own. I took care. I had to get everything on my own. So throughout the year,
I don't think people realize how expensive it is to move into a dorm room. When you send a young person off to college, they need a whole lot of stuff when they hit that campus, and with no support system whatsoever. How did you make it through that first few months?
I got close to some of my teammates. I still talk to them today. We still actually talk. We have a group meet app, and we all tech. We've been doing it now forever. And that's who held me down there. I got close to some folks, and they were helping me assimilate.
You created a new family-like support
for my
system,
teammates,
which I think, as you do your work in criminal justice, which we'll talk about here in just a little bit, that's, I think, what's lacking for a lot of young men who end up in the juvenile justice system, and women, that lack of that bond, that sense of attachment, that sense of safety that young people need, that launching place. Sometimes their parents can't create that kind of an environment. And I'm thinking we've got to maybe create something family-like to surround young people with. For some people, it's the team, the sports team, right? Or the Boys and Girls Club or whatever. But some of your work that you've done over the years, it seems as if you're still kind of thinking about that 17-year-old and what that part of you needed. And your work seems to be, it's almost like you're remembering and giving back to that, to people in that same kind of experience.
I am. That's
so I'm sensitive to the time we have, and we need 2 episodes of this story, because just your early life would be a whole episode of the podcast.
Oh yeah.
And you told me that. But we're gonna try and squeeze in. You got to squeeze in your college and your Army real quick, because I want to get you to this discussion about your life as a police officer and now as an educator and an entrepreneur. So tell me about going from college to the military.
Yeah, so I graduated in 2011 from college, and I actually, right after college, I went into the Indiana State Trooper Academy, and I departed. I departed. I wasn't mentally there ready. I was like, I'm not ready for this. Like, I'm not ready. So I went and took a job. I worked for a sheriff's department as an admin. I did a whole lot of human resource work and a lot of development with their ticketing system. So I got everything online, working and doing that. So from there, that's when I decided to go into the military. One of my good friends was a U.S. Marshal at the time, and he said the fastest way to get to be a marshal or your FBI was through the military, because you get the clearances. So I decided to go and enlist into the military. Now, mind you, I already had a degree, but I wasn't quite there. I was just like, I want to do 4 years and get out. So I came into the military, didn't know what I walked into, and I served. I served 4 years, 2 weeks, 2 days, active.
You know exactly how long you were in there.
Yes. So did that.
You were counting the days, and you were looking at your watch and counting the days.
You lock it in. It locks in when you like, this is the end date. I'm gonna make sure I remember that end date.
Now, why didn't you make it, a 20, 30-year career? You're smart enough. You probably could. You had your degree, so you could have been an officer or whatever.
It wasn't. The environment wasn't what I wanted to be a part of anymore. I actually arrived here in Washington, March 8th, 2013. That's when I first arrived. I drove from the Midwest all the way over here. It took me 3 days by myself, drove all the way over here. And my first deployment was out of here, came back in 2014. I left June 2013, came back February 2014, and I received orders to go to Colorado. So I had to leave here. I didn't even spend time here. I got orders. They sent me to Colorado, where I spent the rest of my time at, and decided to move back here in 2016 when I exit the military. Now, while I was in the military,
what brought you back to Tacoma?
I liked it here. I liked it. I said, you know what? This is a place of opportunity. I've seen a lot of opportunity here. And my spouse, she was here. She was not from here, but like she was here, and we decided to come back because the opportunities. It was better opportunity here and more diversity than it was in Colorado. So during my time while I was active, I did finish my first master's when I was active duty in the military. And then from there, I had started my PhD when I was still active. Then when I got out, that's when I continued it on. So when I left the military, I came back here. I started working at Tacoma Community College part-time as an adjunct. I was teaching human development. And I then picked up a second little part-time spot where I started working with the Men of Distinction program. So I had a great time. It was like my founding, what I needed right there, because I was able to help kids that's coming out of situations like me to get in college. So
Men of Distinction was what, an Urban League?
No,
Who
it
were
was
they
under our
affiliated?
Mecca. It was under the Mecca department where
Mecca.
basically,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, we'll go and recruit young men of color or those who are in poverty and or living in lower income, and we'll go to the local TPS high schools and recruit these kids and those who are basically slipping through the cracks. And we will recruit them, bring them in, and put them on the same platform as any other student. We made sure that they were able to register for their classes first in the entire campus. They schedule it first so they can make a schedule that fits them. And also we were their academic advisors. We made sure that when they were doing great, we would give them a small amount of scholarships, like $500 scholarships to help them. We helped them get housing. We made sure that they were able to get testing done if they need to take any kind of testing from placement. I mean, everything that we can do to provide services to those students to make them successful. So for a while I had left, and that's when I went to the sheriff's department. I got in.
As in Pierce County Sheriff's Department. Oh, sucky now.
It was a class, it was 7 of us that got in. I was the only, well, it was me and an Asian male. We were the only 2 BIPOC. That's Black, Indigenous people of color. But he was more assimilated to the white culture. So like he was nothing like me. So I was the only, like me and him was the only person of color in there. So we got on and we were, in the Pierce County Sheriff's Department, what they do is they give you all the gadgets, they give you everything, and they train you before you even go to the academy, and you get sworn in as an officer before you go to the academy. So I was in there, did everything, but it got to a point where everything was going to death by PowerPoint, but it was already things I knew. Now, mind you, I got a master's degree, I was doing my PhD, and I'm already knowing the case law that they're talking about. I already know it. And then on top of this, I have a newborn son. So it was some days in there, I'm like, you guys killing me with these 2.5, 3 hour PowerPoints. And
this is at the academy, or when you were doing your field training?
This is the in-house academy. The Pierce County had their own academy.
Yeah, that's right. They have that 6 months of field training or whatever.
Yeah, and you get sworn in as a deputy. So I was getting pulled all the time. Like after we, the course, everything was over at 1600, 4 o'clock, they will always pull me in like, hey, Banks, come in here. And I had to stay an extra 30 minutes to basically get, criticized, saying that, oh, well, we feel like you don't want to be here. And I'm just like, why you say that? They're like, well, you're struggling in the sense of like staying woke. Well, I'm like, Sarge, this is death by PowerPoint. I already know these things.
And you were a new father with new baby and all of that stuff.
And I didn't make that no excuse. I just I will make sure I do better. And it started getting to the point where like now some of the things coming in. So now when they found out I was doing my PhD, now some of the words start coming in like, hey, smarty guy or the smart guy or big brain, little things like that starting to come out. But then after every day of work, I'm getting held behind, getting criticized. You don't want to be here. So I remember one day I was retaking this test and I finished it. I passed it and they were like, so what you gonna do this weekend? I'm just like, I'm gonna work more on my dissertation. I said, I'm getting into the writing phase. I said, I'm gonna start working on that a little bit more, starting kind of putting together my research. And they was like, oh, so that's where you're spending all your time at? I said, no, I just, on my weekends, that's what I work on. During the week, I'm doing this. On the weekends, it's my free time. That's what I do. And it was like, it got to a point, it was like, well, you need to choose between your dissertation or whatever you want to call it and this. I said, okay, I appreciate that. So when we got into the phase, we're starting to do training on, now we're at the point where we're about to get sworn in and we're doing a bunch of work as in patrol stuff. It got to a point where it was getting frustrating because now I'm getting criticized because I'm in school. They're like, well, you're not putting in effort here. And I'm like, why everybody keeps saying that? I was like, because I'm not saying anything and I'm sitting here watching, trying to see how you guys do this and trying to figure out how I would do it. It's just started getting just bad. And I remember one Latinx kid, young man, ran up to me, gave me a hug. He said, man, it's so good to see somebody of color here. I said, what? He was like, you the first Black guy I didn't seen since being here. So I was like, oh,
well, there's no secret about the fact that recruiting people of color is a challenge for
Mhm.
most police departments, but it seems to be a particular challenge for Pierce County.
Mhm.
Um, I know you ultimately left there, but I have to ask you
Mhm.
about your thoughts of what's happening right now with the Pierce County Sheriff and his behavior with respect to the Black news carrier. I'm getting a little bit of camera trauma
Mhm.
going on here, so I apologize for that.
Mhm.
Hopefully that won't continue, but we're getting through this story because this is a really important
Mhm.
story that you're telling, and I think is a story that affects a lot of African American men who choose to go into law enforcement and then choose not to stay, partly because of the environment that they find themselves in.
Mhm.
So I'm just wondering, from your perspective as a police officer for the period of time that you were there, what do you think about what's happened with Sheriff Troyer um, and Cedric Altimer, who was just doing his job as a newspaper delivery carrier and was stopped in the middle of the night, actually followed, first of all, and then had a ridiculous, I guess I would say, response, police response as a result of Sheriff Troyer's call into the 911 center. What are your thoughts about that and the integrity of that?
I will just say that this is actually research I'm conducting right now. That is racial profiling at its finest, right there. Again, this young Black man is in a neighborhood that what many would say that he doesn't belong in this neighborhood and he's just doing his job, rather than just asking him, and he's telling you that he's a paper carrier and he's delivering papers. It should have went from there. You went to the point where now you are accusing this young man of doing something or making accusations that he's doing something you don't supposed to be doing. And remember, if you are in plain clothes, if you're in plain clothes and you keep saying, you telling me to stop doing something and you're in plain clothes, in my head, I'm just like, okay, this is another angry guy in the neighborhood, or being community watch. I'm not going to pay him any attention. But the fact that this gentleman is keep telling you stop following him, and he's telling you what he's doing, why wouldn't you take that as that's factually what's going on? If you see him actually delivering papers to people's homes, um, then you go to the spot, you go to the place of calling dispatch and making up this horrendous story that this gentleman has did this, he said that. Even if he did say these things, you're in plain clothes. He don't know who you are. You're in this
Mhm.
dark. Um,
Does an officer have an obligation to identify himself, or can he just decide, I'm not going to tell you who I am?
yes, you're a
Um,
public servant.
when you're
You
off,
are.
do you feel like when you're off duty, you still have that obligation to
Yes,
say,
if you're off
hey,
duty, yes. I feel like you still need to identify yourself, because again, this young man don't know who you are. He doesn't know you're the sheriff of Pierce County. He doesn't know. He's just doing his job.
mm-hmm,
And you are a public. You're not just a public servant. You are an elected official. You are elected as a sheriff. And from there, you could have easily, I'm the sheriff of Pierce County, could have had your back, whatever. Asked this young man and could have had a decent conversation with him. Or, I just noticed you're in the neighborhood. What are you doing?
mm-hmm.
Well, I'm delivering papers, officer. I'm just delivering papers right now. Okay, appreciate that. If you need to check his credentials, check it and go from there. It wasn't no need to blow it up into something. Now what you then did is you have created conflict of interest, in the sense of you are an elected official and you called in this bogus call. And now you needed to get it looking at, like, okay, how did we elect this person in if this type of behavior is going on? You represent the entire Pierce County Sheriff's Department. You are the face of it.
Yes. And you've
So
only been
now,
there 3 months.
yes. So now you just, again, you're creating more division between the communities of color and the police department again, because now that's harassment. Now, again, racial profiling. You just profiled this young man that he was doing something that he wasn't even doing. Then you make accusations. And again, it could be true or false. I wasn't there. You're making these accusations. And again, I'm just thinking of myself standing in this young man's shoes and you're in plain clothes. I'm going to, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know who you are. I don't know you're a sheriff, but I'm also going to protect myself too, because look what's went on out in throughout the United States to Ahmaud Arbery himself jogging through,
Right,
city
right.
streets and he get killed.
A lot of the commentary that I've been reading said that Cedric Altheimer must have had his angels with him that night, because
Mm-hmm.
it could very easily have been a life or death. Well, it was in his mind, I'm sure, a life or death situation. And certainly, at least one of the officers had his gun out and drawn, from what I understand. And they did search him and search his vehicle. I'm even wondering, did they even have probable cause to do that?
I was just about to say that. I didn't hear that part, but did you actually have probable cause to search this gentleman's vehicle? What probable, under what component did you have it? I mean, just because they made these, if he made these accusations of threats, what gives you the right to search his car? I mean, you can look in plain view, as in you can look in
Right.
the car and you notice he got newspapers in there or whatever, but did he have anything where it can be, now I got probable cause to search a car?
Or to
So now,
search him. What gave you
yeah.
probable cause to even search him? He didn't have, he had not displayed any kind of a weapon. But in these last few minutes, I want to
Mm-hmm.
close on this issue with Troyer. There are four things in discussion right now, and I want to see which one you think is the most viable response. Number one, reprimand, which I'm not sure. You got to sort of explore whether or not the council or the exec
Mm-hmm.
or who has the authority to reprimand him. Resignation, which would mean he'd have to actually make a judgment call that seems as if it would be out of character for him to make.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Recall, which is a whole legal process that is expensive and
Mm-hmm.
takes a long time. Or reconstruction, which is to have the council construct some new support systems like an oversight commission or an office of equity or some other structure that would investigate and be a place where a Cedric Altheimer could bring his concerns and have them aired. What do you think? Which one is the most likely viable response? Reprimand, resignation, recall, or reconstruction?
From what I understand with this character, I don't think the first two would fit. So I'm gonna say number four. Number four would be the best, because I don't just think that it's just him. It needs to be oversight of all these officers. There's been many complaints, not just from the sheriff's department, but also TPD, with folks
Mm-hmm.
with several complaints. And again, it's getting swept under the rug. And this needs to stop. Again, where do you draw the line? Is, some of these instances is not equitable. Again, this gentleman has a legal complaint that he can take. You violated his Fourth Amendment right, unreasonable search and seizure,
Mm-hmm.
and and also this
A
phone
false
call.
report? How
There you
about
go.
that?
So again, that we need some oversight of all of these actions and take the correct response to when anyone messes up. And again, a lot of officers are frustrated because of all these parameters going in place. Well, it's no longer the good old boys club where things getting swept under the rug and you can continue your job. Some of these things affects people's lives and they lose trust. You mean the officers, as you lose trust in the community, crime won't get solved. You can't figure out anything. You have no support system. Now you got people relocate and moving. Guess what? Your budget gets cut even deeper. So now we got to start letting people go. So you got to think about those things. Remember, you are a public servant. You are the face of public. The folks are paying you through their taxes to make sure that things are safe. But if you're
Mm-hmm.
not treating everyone with the same respect, I mean, you're not going to get far. These things going to continue to happen.
And it makes us feel more unsafe when our top
Yes.
police law enforcement officer is behaving in such a counterproductive way. There was no de-escalation. In fact, it
Mm-hmm.
seemed like he escalated the matter. You teach this topic, criminal
Mm-hmm.
justice, at the community college level. if this was a scenario in your classroom, I'm just curious, how would you present this as an opportunity for your students to think about criminal justice the way you teach it in your class? Tell me a little bit about how you would break this issue down for your class.
Well, first I find a video that's very similar to it to let them get a visual. And then I like to put it into a report form, more like an open essay, because I like to see their opinions. I love to see how my students think about the situation. And I actually do this I teach a class called Multicultural Diversity in Criminal Justice. And I have these type of topics on everything where it's a scenario based, and they read it, and I want them to answer it as if they are the person in charge. So if this happened with the sheriff, now I will put you in the shoes of a council member. Now you are the council who oversee this. What will your response be to this? Write up something. What policy, what would you implement to change anything? If you want to change anything, I make them describe what they felt was wrong and what the person could have done better. I make them really break down everything as a person that's in a leadership position. I
think you should have your class maybe do that and call into public comment over the next 3 or 4 weeks.
Yeah, I can definitely make that happen. I can do that. Actually, I'm teaching criminal law.
Good assignment, huh?
I will put that in my criminal law assignments. I'm teaching criminal law next quarter, and I will put that in there.
There's just they only get 3 minutes in public comment, but it may be that they could influence what the council ultimately decides to do. Real quickly, we got to give you a shout out to your entrepreneurial work, your business, because you're also a businessman. Take a minute or so and tell us about your entrepreneurship.
Yeah, JB Consulting. I do a lot of curriculum oversight. I develop curriculum, also do presentations on criminal justice, dealing with the Black community, teaching your individual rights, talking about your individual rights. I got different series I did on the school to prison pipeline. I have different series talking about how policing developed, where it comes from. I talk about everything in the field of criminal justice on a presentation level, especially to the Black community. And it's not creating a bias against police, but everyone should understand their rights when they're dealing with police. And again, I have no bad intentions against police officers. As a former U.S. soldier, as a former officer, just people should know their rights. So you can it also to help officers. So people do know their rights and understand things. Sometimes it can keep the officer in check and preventing them from, again, creating a civil suit against themselves and the department. So.
Well, yeah. I definitely appreciated your Crystal Stair story. You definitely are a beautiful example of triumph and overcoming and self-determination. You have a beautiful family. You're an entrepreneur and a successful businessman and an educator. So thank you, Dr. Jashon Banks, for the way that you have used your life, but frankly, for the fact that you didn't just give up and decide that you weren't going to dream anymore just because of the circumstances that your life started in. I think that they give you a foundation of credibility with other young men who may be in similar situations. They can look at you and see what's possible. So we appreciate you very much for that. And we'll have to invite you to come and speak at our upcoming Freedom Summer Symposium. We have to close now. It's coming up June 28, 29, 30. And so maybe JB Consulting can offer us a little discount and we can have you come and maybe do a little bit of that historical educating that you do. So thank you, Dr. Banks, for being here tonight. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Carol.
And that's our show for you this evening. Again, happy birthday to Anjane's mom. They're down having some fun in Vegas or somewhere, but she'll be back with us next week. And thank you for watching the show tonight. And we'll see you next time on the Black Robe Podcast.
We tired of talking, got black riding in jails and in coffins. Said we tired of talking, got black bodies riding in jails and in coffins. Nobody coming like we do, started it over like we do. Still fighting for better ways, cause nothing's out getting more lethal. Baby, it's getting more pity, we was not meant to be equal. I know there's better days, but it's up to you to receive them. For years I ain't complained, I ain't never changed. No, to your love in every race, we was made the same. It's time to read between the lines, not the script they gave. We only got so much time.